So, welcome to Circular Night, proudly presented by the first and only Circular Valley Convention 2025. Welcome. Applause. Yes. There is energy in this room. I know this. Amazing. I'm Shirin de Bruin, your moderator for the evening. And before we dive in our exciting evening program, let's do a quick check-in. So, question for you. Who has had an inspiring, insightful, and maybe even eye-opening day so far? Hands up. Wow, so many hands. Amazing. You did everything right. So, and who's excited for what's coming next this evening? Woo! Yes, I love it. That's the vibe. Amazing. So, all right, but first, please look to your right. Now, please look to your right and give your neighbor a smile. And now look to your left, please, and give your neighbor another smile. Yes, because let's be real, some of the best ideas don't come from slides and keynotes, but from the connections we make. And this evening is all about that. And today we have explored groundbreaking innovations, bold strategies, and real-world solutions, all with one goal: enabling the circular economy. We started with keynotes about it, followed by session 1, Value Cycles for Plastics, where we looked at how circularity in plastics can be scaled up through innovation and industry action. Then we moved to session 2, Circular Construction Industry, tackling one of the biggest resource-consuming sectors and exploring how digitalization, material science, and policy can drive change. And finally, in session 3, Circular Packaging and Printing, we examined the future of fiber-based packaging, recycling innovations, and closed-loop systems. A huge thank you to all our speakers and panelists, and of course to you, our audience, for your interest and your attention, for your curiosity, engagement, and great discussions. Thank you. And now, as we transition into the evening, we keep the momentum going with an inspiring keynote and a high-level panel discussion that will set the stage for today's and also tomorrow's conversations. And our keynote speaker tonight is an expert in sustainable energy and circular systems, and his research focuses on how we can move from a linear fossil-based economy to a circular carbon economy that stays within planetary boundaries. He will take us through why the world needs Circular Valley and how this region can play a key role in shaping the transition. Please welcome with me Professor André Bardow from the Department of Mechanical and Process Engineering and Professor at ETH Zurich. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for staying so long and even finding the way here. I have to admit, I feel in a difficult situation when I found out that I was supposed to give the dinner talk after alcohol has been served. I would imagine, and I was planning to talk about plastics. I'm in trouble because many of you would rather be home on your couch watching Netflix. So I was wondering, how can I combine these worlds? And actually there's a big connection in that, because plastics has actually been the key in my life to enable me to be a movie star, or at least as close I would ever get as a movie star. So what I thought, I combined my childhood, which was heavily impressed by Star Wars, with the theme of the day. And then, so to give you some Netflix vibes. So what we know is that my childhood was happy playing with these toys, but we know by now they are attached to trouble. There's climate change in plastics production, and we're all aware about plastics pollution. So there's the beauty in plastic, but there's also the challenge. And what I wanted to explore with you tonight is how can we explore, in the term of Star Wars, the linear empire of plastics. And just to show out what is the linear empire, I think everybody's aware. Today we have a fossil-based industry that we produce the chemicals we all like, and then we incinerate. That was too fast. And then we incinerate them. And this emits a lot of CO2. And as has been demonstrated beautifully throughout the day, there's a big opportunity to turn it into circles. And today was a lot about recycling, but I think what was also discussed, it's not only recycling. We explored other routes. We explored biomass. I will not discuss it in today, but we learned it's not easy. Yeah? And I just highlight a thing, and I would just say, I can share the science, but biomass definitely is a limited resource, so we should be careful with it. The next thing we discussed is, actually, if we burn the plastics, we produce CO2. If you're looking for a new carbon source, let's use the CO2 and CO2 utilization. And the key is hydrogen, and hydrogen is heavily discussed. So the thing we ask in our research group is, can this circular economy work out? And so what we did in our group, we built a model of the chemical industry. You're not supposed to read it, it just should look complicated. I hope that's achieved. And so we developed a model that has the value chains for the 14 largest plastics. And we asked, can we produce these plastics completely from CO2 and water? Is this feasible, and will this lead us to a sustainable future? The good news is it's possible. We can do this. I apologize for scientific grasp, but you invited a professor. So this is the carbon footprint of the plastics industry. And we can take it to zero if you take the bottom line by having renewable energy being used to produce hydrogen. So this works out. The awesome thing, the technology for this is available at high TRL. The catch is the the x-axis. We need 19 petawatt hours for this. I don't know whether you know what a petawatt hour is. To give you a reference value, humankind uses 24 petawatt hours. So we would need 75% of global electricity production in clean additionally. And that's very difficult. So we also have to say this works out, but going the CO2 route needs so much energy that it's also a limited resource. So we were stuck. And as you know, that's where the Star Wars series started. Because in my days, the first movie came out and suddenly there's a new hope. Okay? And the new hope for us was recycling, adding another pathway to the model, to the industry. So what we did, we said, actually, and I think that's the beauty of today, it's not about biomass, it's not about CO2, it's not about recycling, it's really becoming sustainable or carbon neutral. That's the key. And I don't care who gets the praise, I want to save the planet. And the question is, can we do this? And we can do this, and this is how the future looks like. It's a carbon balance, and what you see 4 circles. Because actually, we need everything. We need mechanical recycling, we need chemical recycling, we do have losses, which we can recover via CO2, and we can recover it via biomass. So combining these technology can really lead to carbon neutral plastics. That's awesome. If you're still paying attention, I already showed you 3 slides ago that we can become carbon neutral via CO2, but the energy demand would kill us. Look at this solution, again a complicated graph, but there's the energy demand in the bottom, there's the biomass up there, and what is interesting, if we compare this to the fossil world we are having today, going CO2 is energy intensive, going biomass is energy intensive, but if we would implement the circular economy I showed you, it would actually use less energy. I repeat this, less energy than the linear world we are employing today. This is on a primary energy basis, but we need to be aware that the industry we are running today is really inefficient. We are really wasting resources, and it's much better to retain the synthesis that you did in the products. That's the way you can, on a primary energy safe basis. Okay, problem solved? No. If you watch Star Wars, you know there's issues. So the Empire Strikes Back. And actually, maybe you are not aware, but in the scientific literature, some people are coming back with a new linear economy, okay? And they call this neo-fossils. Let me explain the idea to you. The idea is we take biomass, which takes CO2 from the atmosphere, we produce biopolymers, and then we just landfill them. Because in this way, I have a carbon flux from the atmosphere to storage. So reducing CO2 in the atmosphere, it's awesome. It works also via CO2, yeah? And that is now heavily promoted. It didn't appear in the results I showed you on the modeling because we cheated. We didn't allow this solution. So what we said is we only allow 6% of landfilling at losses. We said anything else will be unsustainable. So what we now did when people proposed it, we said, okay, let's allow landfilling like crazy. We asked the computer what would be the lowest carbon footprint plastics industry. And the graph is terrible, but this is the result. I apologize for the graphics. It's very complicated, it's our internal thing. But what is important, the carbon negative industry takes biomass and put everything into landfill. So the linear empire really stroked back. This industry could generate negative emissions on the gigaton scale because we take CO2 through biomass and dump it into landfills. And enjoy the evening, all you recyclers, there's no recycling in the solution. Terrible. If you know the movies, you know there's a third movie because the Jedi do return. So there's the return of the Jedi. And it's actually, and I think that's important to me, we took a too simplistic view at the whole system. Because what I discussed till now with you is CO2, climate change. But actually, we should not only care about climate change, but about sustainability. And there's the important concept of the planetary boundaries, which says there are several boundaries we should not care about. And if you're as old as me, you're aware there's an ozone layer, there's acid rain, and we need to make sure that the solutions we implement now do not harm the balance with the planet at all. So, and what science did, they defined a safe operating space in which we could run the planet safely without disturbing these Earth-scale processes. So the question we ask ourselves is, can we run this plastics industry within the planetary boundaries, or are we doomed? And then we looked at all dimensions. So the first thing we looked at is fossil-based production, okay? I apologize, it's a logarithmic scale. I'm an engineer, yeah? So these numbers are large. So the truth, what you see, climate change is way too much. So this graph proves to you mathematically fossil-based production. I apologize, what you are doing today is unsustainable, mathematically proven. Then we looked at the solution I showed you, which for the neo-fossils, which are good for the climate, yes, but they violate the biosphere integrity. We have way too much trouble related to biomass. So it looks awesome for the climate, but we screw up everything else. So please stop looking for climate solution. We really have to look at sustainability. Now comes the bad news, but maybe good news for a professor. We did not find any sustainable solution. Nothing worked. But in a model, we could improve the technologies. And in particular, what we did, we improved recycling technologies because all of you are amazing. So we said we will have better recycling technologies in the future. We picked the cleanest biomass that we got, and we picked the cleanest energy that we have on the planet. We reran the analysis, and we found a safe operating space for plastics. And I love this graph, so apologize my emotions. It's again complicated, but you see how much clean electricity do you have to put in and how much biomass. And the color code is how much recycling. And it shows the trouble we are in. Because if we don't invest so much clean electricity or biomass, climate change will hit us. But if you put in too much biomass, biosphere integrity will hit us. If you have too much CO2 and too much electricity, there's too much infrastructure that needs to be built, then mining-related emissions will hit us. And this is really the operating space that we are working in. And what we saw in this analysis is that the recycling rate really helps to reduce the other needs. and that we need about 65 or 70% of recycling rates, which is enormous, but otherwise there's no way to get in there. So recycling is the key, but there's one more catch I want to leave you with. That is, this graph is for 2030. We redid this analysis for 2050, for which we expect a growth in plastics demand. And what actually happens is that the space looks like this. It's an empty slide because there's no safe operating space for plastics in 2050 if we continue producing more and more plastics. So I hope I showed, so plastic growth and the rates we are having now is fundamentally unsustainable, even in a computer model. So I hope I showed you that there's a new hope, and the good news is we need all circular technologies. Looking naively only at climate change will really not lead us to sustainability. I think we've seen great examples of technologies today, and in our understanding, recycling is really the key, but please don't forget that's not enough. We also have to discuss demand. With this, I thank you for your attention. The planet needs a circular valley. May the waste be with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. So, and now I'm delighted to welcome back my co-moderator to the stage for this session, and someone who has been guiding us through today's discussions with deep expertise and a positive energy. Professor Manfred Renner, Institute Director at Fraunhofer UMSICHT, will now take over to lead this important conversation and introduce our panelists. Please give him a warm welcome back. Yes, enjoy.
So I'm very happy to be back here on stage and to directly start, because we all want to have also conversation in the evening. So we said as a panel that we will stand here and that you see us better than we are sitting here. And we directly start. So at first, Ute Spring. Ute, please come up here. She's working at Dow Chemicals, and R&D is one very important topic. So please welcome Ute here on stage. So then there's Ralf Düssel. He has got two hats on his head. On the one hand side, the Evonik hat, and on the other hand side, the Plastics Europe hat. So welcome Ralf here on stage. So someone we got to know a little bit better, André Bardow. André, so please come up here. It was an amazing speech from your side. So the force is with us now, and the second force from the Universal side and also from the Wuppertal Institute side, Henning Wilts. Henning, so please join us. So I prepared a few questions, and I strongly hope that it's interesting for you all. Because at first we want to see and come to an international company and an international view on the topic of circular economy. It's Dow. And Ute, coming from a global view as a global supplier for chemicals, and on the other hand side, sitting in Germany, be part of Europe, what is your perspective on this topic, and what can you tell us?
First of all, good evening, everyone. I hope you enjoy the wine, you enjoy the food, and you have enjoyed the excellent day today. So yeah, coming back to your question, Dow is one of the world's largest plastic producers, is seeing circular economy as crucial and also as a key enabler for a net zero economy. Which is very important for us and need to be implemented. And we are taking, in order to advance circularity, a global approach, which means that we are adapting our strategies to local context, and then still keeping the global shared view on this. And Europe and particularly Germany are pivotal for Dow in the sense of really setting the pace for the transformation, for the circularity, due to a very strong regulatory framework, which is in the making, like the PPWR, ELVR, and it is supposed to set a strong foundation. And also the recently announced Clean Industrial Deal can really encourage the member states in order to invest into circularity and to adapt the strategies. But we feel as Dow, and I think also our peers, that we are seeing the goal, 2030, we take a challenge, we want to do a sprint, and we are just off the starting blocks. But then we see that the path is not even paved, so that there are obstacles and stones, so we don't have the right framework in place in order to make the next step. This is not possible for us, and this is frustrating. But nevertheless, Dow's vision and commitment to recognize and to support material ecosystems that are revolutionizing the perception of waste is crystal clear for us. So we need to see waste not as a burden, we need to see it as a valuable good, as a valuable material which is just waiting out there to be harnessed. And the journey for circularity, for a practical and productive circularity has started already. So we know what to do, but we are facing the challenges which are not fully under our control. And that is something we need to tackle.
Okay, so thank you for this overview, and I also want to come, Ralf, you are coming out of the same branch. You have got the Evonik hat on your head now. So what is your perspective regarding the global, but also the European and the German circular economy strategy, and what is your point of view regarding your business models?
Yeah, first of all, I also would like to thank you and everybody here to make that possible, because I think it shows our opportunity. Because if you talk global and what's happening globally, we know all about it. I would say the free trade agreement, and the free trade is difficult, and we will have regional differences, and I think it's our job to make Europe strong, and that's what we also see in our companies, that normally now we have more cooperation bilateral on continents, but not so much across continents. We see other regions also developing in circular economy, but if I come here maybe also in cooperation, I'm happy that we just published our position on plastics and recycling and climate together with the other associations. The associations of recycling, the association of polymer usage, and also the VDMA, so the engineers who produce the machine. So we have an alignment along the value chain. Where do we want to go? And we have all parts in there, also some from André, right? We want to reduce, we want to design for recycle, so that we make those curves possible. And if you go to our partner association, you see 69% recycling and packaging we achieved last year. So we have also some positive news we should take home, and close to your 70, which we need in 2030, and it will grow further. And on the other hand, we really all put hope into the Clean Industrial Deal. There are 6 major pillars, and one is circular economy. And there should be and will be a Circular Economy Act, which then helps us. What is waste? How do we get it across the borders to recycle? All those things today is not clear. Hopefully we have solutions to really enable the transformation.
Okay, thank you very much for this answer, and now we come to André. André, you told us something about the ecology. On the other hand side, we have got economic system, So I think the good news regarding your presentation is remanufacturing, repair, reuse, and all of this should be done, because otherwise we came in big problems. But let's look on the economic side. So do you have some words for us regarding this?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? No, thank you. Okay, first of all, I didn't feel in a position to come as a professor to teach you about economics. Yeah, so I shouldn't do this. But I think I do have an opinion on this, because I have to say I have been a professor of thermodynamics for 10 years. Yeah? And what we can show quite easily is that the circular economy is actually literally the more efficient one. And I think what we've seen from the past, and we discussed investment, which are super difficult now, but you know that they will be driven by efficiency, which actually translate into operating costs. And we did some economic analysis, as a university professor doesn't do, and on the operational costs we're quite optimistic. I think that we could be on par. But it's an investment hurdle at the moment. But I would really see it in a positive way. You have thermodynamics on your side. And I think I'm more convinced that this chemical or plastics industry is actually the more efficient, is the better one. What we're doing is, we know it's wrong, we know it's fundamentally inefficient. So I think there is a long-term clear economic incentive to go for that.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. And now coming to Henning, because Henning, we sit in a lot of committees. He even in much more than I could ever do this, perhaps. But give us, because a lot is happening. We saw it today. Companies are moving. Companies on the one hand side have new kinds of additives, new kinds of recyclates. So on the technological side, a lot is happening. On the other hand side, we also heard today, we need legislation, for example, and also something like a promise to invest and earn later also the money that you invested in these technologies. What kind of borders do we need? What do you see there? What could be a success story?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. No, we have to think about how can we convince companies to invest into a circular future. No, we have so much research, we have so many strategies on the German level, on the European level. The question is, how do we accelerate this transformation? And I think the key will be exactly, we need planning security for private companies, so that they know what they will facing, what they have to deal with regards to regulatory requirements, the use of recycled content, and then new technologies like pyrolysis. I think the policymakers have understood that in order to get there much faster than we currently do, it needs this clear, stable regulatory framework. And I think that is what also the European Commission tried to emphasize now with the Clean Industrial Deal. Let's not talk about doing things 100% right. Let's not talk about the next 20 good ideas. Let's try to really implement them and to do that jointly. That, I think, is the good part of what we're currently seeing. For me, of course, the question is, do we consider enough that this still has to be sustainable? I mean, André, you showed us that there are technical solutions that look nice on paper, but if you look at the long-term sustainability, there are big question marks. And we see that as our role at the moment to make sure that this is still taken into account.
Okay, so Ute, looking at Dow again, you have got the Dow material ecosystem. So do you have some words? We wait shortly. Do you have some words about the Dow ecosystem, and on the other hand side, investment decisions from the Dow Chemical company side? What do you need and what do you expect from future?
Yeah, very excited to talk about the Dow's material ecosystem. I heard a lot about ecosystems in general today. So we call it the materials ecosystem, which is actually an interconnected system of technologies, processes, and people in order to transform plastic and renewable waste. And this is also leveraging the combined approach of different recycling technologies and circular solutions, and is highlighting, again, the genuine economic value of waste. So I think we all agree that this is an enormous transformation challenge we are having here, and nobody can tackle it alone. So the base for the material ecosystem here is collaboration. Collaboration is the name of the game. Collaborating with our customers, collaborating with our value chain partners, OEMs, with academia, in order to really drive a change here. And to enable circularity and to really meet the rising demands of recycled materials, we need to work together and we need to invest. And we are investing with our partners. And I don't want to bore you with too many corporate information, but I want to share out of many activities we are doing as Dow, and we know what to do. We really know where the journey should go. But one of the most recent announcements is a strategic investment we are taking into a startup company which is called Cycle. This is hot off the press from Monday, that we are doing this strategic investment with a company which is an advanced recycling startup, in order to build the first commercial plant which will have an annual capacity of 21 kilotons, in order to complement mechanical recycling by chemical recycling. And this is a Rotterdam-based, so Europe-based activity. And this is very important for us. We have multiple other examples. And I think what we need in order to invest in the future is, beside the energy situation we are having in Europe, I think there are three things. And I want to be a bit provocative on these ones. First is decisive leadership. We need to make bold decisions to prioritize circularity. We need to see circularity as a business case. We are not seeing circularity as a business case. We need to see it as such in order to capture the environmental gains, but also the economic gains. The other one is the mindset shift. I talked before about the perception of waste. We need to understand waste not as a trash, but as a treasure. And it is very important that we see circularity not only as an eco-friendly type of stuff, it is a gold mine for innovation and for competitiveness. And the last one is urgent regulatory work. Stop talking. We talked enough. Now we really need to have clear guidances and a very robust system of guidelines in order to move forward with the transformation.
Yeah, so Ralf, so we see, and we have also heard from André, we should do this, but this investment boost that we really need, is it a European malus bonus system? Should we trust in business models? Should we trust in companies? Should we trust in society just buying circular products? So from the point of view of Plastics Europe, what do you see as an essential booster for this topic to really have these great investments that we need to realize all of this great recycling stuff and other new business models?
Yeah, happy to do so. So, like Ute said, regulation is really a booster. Often we say regulation is not really helpful. I don't know who just filled out ESIS or reported. Maybe that's the point, but we all are supporting recycling quotas. And I think those recycling quotas, or we as an association, really believe that will be a booster. Because then it's regulatory, we need to fulfill it. It's good for the planet, like André pointed out. And I think that really would be a booster. On the other hand, we need to be pragmatic. We all know about CO2 pricing, for example. In Europe, it's the only one globally which really has significant values already, with roughly 70 euros. Right now, the prediction goes to 130 euros in 2030. If we don't have a system, CBAM, which really works, we will reduce production in Europe as the industry. And we lost already the last 2 years 18% volume in Europe as plastic producing industry. Nevertheless, the world produced more. So somewhere else there's more produced than in Europe. So we also need a functional economy to make that circular possible. And maybe then going on a deeper level, if we talk packaging, for example, again, or design, we need to make sure you get a bonus if you design for recycling. And there are solutions out there, how to do that, so that really systems which can be easily recycled, longer in use, have advantages financially. So those get really then also a booster to make that possible. Just to give some examples.
Okay, perfect. So now bringing the professor out of the comfort zone. We speak about enthusiasm for circular products and about society. What do you think, André? What could be boosters, not regulatory ones and so on, that people really like higher quality and not fast fashion and all of this? Do you have any ideas about this topic? Because this topic is one of the most important things of your research life from the thermodynamic side. But do you see any chance to change the system that we are trained over 70 years to consume more is better and so on? Any ideas?
No, I know why I became an engineer, because these humans tend to be complicated. Yeah, so on this one I do agree. But on this one I had a nice experience, because I moved from Aachen with 10 mechanical engineers to Zurich. As good German mechanical engineers, they all had cars. We lived in Zurich, they all got rid of their cars. And not because they were brainwashed or something, but life is just much more enjoyable without a car, because it's just much more pleasant. And honestly, I think we really have to give this a positive spin. I always feel you need to do this because it's terrible, you're a terrible person, you wasted all your life, that's a disaster. And so we have to convert 80 million people in Germany alone, that they have to realize I've been a bad person, I need to change. No, honestly, and I'm sorry, I'm the tech person. I think the opportunity is here. It's super challenging. The future always is uncertain. But I think on this one, we have the great opportunity that what you said, the direction and policy would like them. But fundamentally, technology-wise, we know the direction. So we can argue about the future, but both about the energy transition, I think we all know in the long term, nobody will burn coal on this planet to have energy. I think in the long term, we know we're going to have the circular economy. So we all know this. And the only thing we are discussing is the delay. How long do we want to delay this, which will ultimately happen? So I think you do have the fundamental certainty. And we know it's the better industry. And I think it have to be the better products. And I think they will be. So give the people the best products. And I think it's the sustainable ones.
That sounds very good and very promising. So thank you for this answer. Henning, in a lot of times we need legislative, or we need reliability regarding railways on the legislative side. On the other hand side, we have got people and elections. We see Donald Trump and we see a lot of European countries also voting in the one and the other side. So how do you think we can take society with us to really go inside this topic? Because otherwise, without reliability, how should companies like Evonik, Dow and all these other companies out there really take investments that last over the next decades?
Well, I mean, that is the big question, and I wouldn't dare to say I have the answer for that, but now we have the pleasure to cooperate with reuse pilots, startups working on reuse systems on 5 different continents. And what we see is it doesn't make sense to tell people how to consume, no, or how to do their business. The key success factor from my point of view is enable them, to invest in infrastructures, to support them, to give them access to investment capital. I think we have to also in this in the green bubble switch from we know better what to do to help people actually change how they consume and behave. And I think the same is for companies. It's absolutely fair that everyone has to gain revenues. So we have to think about the enabling factors for circular business models. And if you look at the tax system, if you look at very concrete and detailed regulations, you see that often it only needs minor changes so that the company would say, of course, it's in my own interest to invest into circularity instead of linear systems. So I think there isn't an easy answer, that's the problem, but there are a lot of minor things that we have to address, and we have to do that in a coherent and consistent way. And I think that is the scientific challenge, and not to become too activistic, but to really think where do we want to go and how to get there.
Okay, perfect. So a last short round, because when Carsten, at the last panel, Carsten, you had this topic of also leadership and who should take the lead, and are these a few companies or policymakers? And I found this question very interesting that was discussed in this panel. So who wants to have the first pick about who should take leadership in Europe? So who could be the group or the company or the country or the EU policy to start with this? Do we need a leadership, and from whom?
In my opinion, the industry should take the leadership and should be empowered in order to move forward. The governments and the policy can only pave the path. They can set the foundation and a good framework, but we should be empowered enough as industry in order to go our own way. As we all said, we know what we need to do. It needs to be technology open, chemistry agnostic. So it is really something we need to decide, and we need to have the freedom. And specifically on the chemical industry, I think it should be, it will be important that we are seen as part of the solution and not part of the problem. I think that is something very important for me, and I think I can also speak for Dow.
Other leadership ideas?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure if it's just industry. I don't want to pull back or take away our responsibility, but I think this is a group here, right? We all together. I think we cannot be just as industry or as perfect politics if nobody follows, or if consumer don't follow. I think jointly we need to get that moving. And probably it needs then some individuals or companies or NGOs also who really drive things as a group together and bring that forward. I would say that's probably faster and more successful than just one of the groups.
Okay, I'm actually...
Forgot science, of course.
Yeah. I'm not super happy with the question, who should take the lead? Because it imposes some people can be inactive, and I think that's the wrong thing. So the question I would have been like to ask is who should take action? And my answer is everybody, because that's what we need. And I think I was very excited by the startups here, people trying out of people's solutions. There's so many opportunities in there. We know it's a better technology. I think, honestly, living in a different country now, if I come to Germany, we see the problem, well, who takes lead, who takes action, I need to know. No, I think this is a big opportunity, and everybody has responsibility know the roles you set as a person, the company, as a consumer, as a voter, yeah? But take action. I think that's about opportunities and action, and we saw so much exciting technologies. Don't you want to work and contribute to the most exciting technology that is out there? So who to take actions? Everybody.
Okay, perfect. Last but not least.
Well, for me that is a really easy question. As an institute belonging to the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, it has, of course, to be North Rhine-Westphalia. Then we have, you see it here, and you see it with the Circular Valley. I think we have everyone that we need for circular solutions here within an hour train ride. We have the researchers, we have Fraunhofer, we have the companies. So I would really hope that now also the North Rhine-Westphalia circular economy strategy says we want to take the lead, and we want to set the guidelines, we want to support us. So my guess, North Rhine-Westphalia.
So, okay, I think we will stop this perfect and very great panel.